Delivery boys of Reddit, what is the weirdest delivery you ever did? A man answered the door in a robe. The robe was closed. But I guess he wasn't wearing underwear. Because as we're exchanging money, a stream of piss starts to fall between his legs and right onto his own carpet. He doesn't seem to notice. Or just doesn't care. I take a big step back out of the splash zone. And he just keeps making small talk while it's happening. Pulled up to this easily $1.50 2 mil house. Lady opens the door and as she's signing the receipt I hear, Bethany. Willis is in the dog food again. This is deep in Louisiana. So this is all in a typical southern drawl. I look behind her and see a man chasing a full-grown pot-belly pig wearing an LSU jersey away from what I assume is the dog food area. Willis returned to the area shortly after. My optics are ruined by where I live. Vancouver has $2 million houses that look like crack houses. I know of a kid who was a drug addict that had pizza delivered to his house. Once he heard the doorbell. He walked out his back door with a ski mask on and robbed the delivery driver in front of his own home. After that, he walked back around the home and opened the front door from inside pretending to be surprised that the guy was robbed. Idiot ended up getting arrested, but it was the worst plan ever hatched by someone I knew. I once delivered pizza to what seemed like a gang house. I pulled up and there are all these intimidating dudes with tattoos and bandanas all wearing the same colored clothes. I puckered up and felt my scrotum shrivel as I awkwardly shuffled past them with a bunch of pizzas to ring the doorbell. They were all staring me down and it felt like the longest walk ever. The person who ordered the pizza must have been the head honcho because he looked like the baddest of the bunch. The total was like $70 and he gave me a $100 bill and told me to keep the change. I bolted out of there and returned back to the pizza place on autopilot because I was so scared. I was delivering a pizza and after I knocked on the door I heard a faraway voice yell coming. So I waited. After about a minute I hear the same voice a little closer yell, almost there, just wait. This continues for several minutes, with the voice coming closer and closer until the person finally reaches the door and opens it. I'm expecting to see someone at our level. However, instead I'm greeted by a smiling person on the floor who had no legs and dragged themselves across the house to answer the door. I offered to put the pizza inside for them in the kitchen and they were pretty appreciative. So I delivered like 5 pizzas to this guy once. I had to ring the doorbell several times before he came to the door. When he got there he didn't really say anything except to come on in real quick. Now you aren't supposed to go in people's houses, but I decided who cares, I can defend myself. I get inside this guy's huge house and it's full of weird shit. There was a full suit of armor right by the door. And somewhere he had this Halloween CD playing creepy, deep voiced laughs. While he's searching for his wallet, the biggest dog I've ever seen walks up to me and falls at my feet, pushing me over. So I'm sitting next to a suit of armor petting this huge ass dog waiting for this middle-aged man to pay me. He gave me a $40 tip. I delivered pizzas for a few years in college. One of my deliveries to a hotel had a guy answer the door in nothing but boxers and a beanie. We trade money for pizza and as I give him his change, I hear another guy yell, unseen, from behind the corner, "If he's cute, let him keep the rest." The guy at the door hands me back the change and smiles. I wasn't sure how to react, so I just turned and left. I was a delivery boy for an Asian restaurant for a while. Had a delivery down a sketchy, very bumpy road in the back of my small town near all these trailers. When they answered the door, there was a 50-60-year-old lady standing completely naked in front of me, as well as 2 men of the same age sitting on the couch with their dongs out. Again, completely naked. I obviously got out of there as fast as possible. I took her signature and nearly ran away. She yelled at me through the window, "Come inside with us." And I said duck no as I was walking away. And she proceeded to curse at me as I jogged back to my car. It's interesting what kind of people you meet. I was a pizza delivery boy back in high school. I was delivering on Super Bowl Sunday during my senior year and one of the houses I delivered at felt bad. They told me to come in and watch the game. So I stayed there for a while. Watched a full quarter before going back to work. I knew that I was leaving for college soon enough anyway. So the possibility of getting fired didn't faze me. Side note, my boss asked me what happened. I told him the truth. And he kept me around. I continued working there on breaks from college, and 15 years later, I am still friendly with my old boss. He works at the same pizza place and I go there with my family sometimes. This is definitely one of the most memorable deliveries I had when I worked as a driver for this Japanese restaurant. It was sent to this house with an order of a steak hibachi and a couple of sushi rolls that added up to something like $19.60. I like to call before I got to a place, just to give people a bit of a heads up. So by the time I got to the door it was already open. In the doorway stood a chubby kid. About 9 or 10 years old that reminded me a lot of the kid from Bad Santa. But without the curly hair. I tell him the total as I pass off his food. He hands me a $20 bill and with a straight face he smugly says, "Keep the change, pal." Immediately after, he closes the door and I stood there for a second trying to process what just happened. When I got back to my car I noticed the time and realized it was way too early for that kid to be home from school. I couldn't help but laugh at the whole situation. No wonder he sounded a bit cocky when he told me that I could keep the $40 in change. This kid probably faked being sick so he could stay from school and was probably in there watching TV or playing video games while eating sushi and feeling like a big shot. I know I would have at that age. I worked for a company called Waiter. Basically we were partnered with certain restaurants and we would deliver for them. It was my last drop of the night and when I got to the door something smelled rather musky. I knocked and I waited a few moments till the door opened. There stood a man with a massive bong and stoned beyond belief. It took me a couple of minutes to explain who I was and why I was giving him his food. He was friendly as could be. He even offered to share his food and we'd with me cause I was such a sweet guy for coming all the way out here. I rang the doorbell and a woman about my age, 23 at the time, opened the door. We were going through the usual exchange of pizza and money, when another woman who appeared to be her mother began walking towards us. "Well, if you're not going to do it, I will," she said, while at the same time removing her shirt. I was somewhat taken aback and must have looked confused while keeping eye contact with the young woman who was visibly embarrassed. "Don't be shy. You can look at them, you know," the mother said. I glanced down at her bobs, then up to her face and gave a nod of approval. I looked back at the daughter, said thank you and walked back to my car. They tipped well too. So pretty decent delivery if I'm honest. I delivered pizza in NJ. I went on the porch to see a snarling Rottweiler behind the door. Not a big deal. Happens a lot. I'm a stranger, the dog is just being a dog. The lady pushes him back. We do the pizza transaction and as I'm turning to go the lady said, "Oh my god. He's out." The back door was open and the dog was charging around the house about to come on the porch. I quickly opened the door to run inside but the lady screamed no. The really bad one is inside and I see a bigger Rottie just inside the hall, so I stick myself between the screen door and the real door and I'm trapped in an angry dog sandwich. The outside dog bites my calf because I can only close the screen door so much. Not much damage but I'm bleeding. The manager goes to talk with the lady. It is like 1/8 of a mile from the store or that lazy bastard wouldn't have bothered, and Rotties are penned up out back. As soon as the lady starts talking to him, another small mutt dog zips out the door and bites him on the hand. He made the call on no more pizza for them. Delivered a pizza to a cryogenic slab on New Year's Eve. Pretty sure it was a prank. Name on the order said I. Capital C. Whiner. I was delivering pizza once in a pretty sketchy neighborhood and I came up to a gated apartment complex where I saw a dude waving me down. Sometimes customers in apartment complexes used to meet us outside if they knew their complex was complicated. So I'm thinking what a nice guy. Turns out I was horribly wrong. I let this complete rando into my car who ducking reeks of liquor and cigarettes. I somehow get the words out, "Hey man, is this your pizza?" This dude is barely coherent and responds with, "No, I need a ride." And I'm just freaking out at this point. Wondering when the weapon or threats were gonna come out, and I nervously respond with, "Dude, I totally would, but I can't, I got pizzas to deliver, look, check it out." He keeps asking and asking, and I just keep repeating myself saying if I wasn't working I'd totally help him out. I'm gonna get fired. etc. And after about 10 minutes the dude stumbles out of my car and went on his way. So freaky. Lesson learned: double check before letting drunk strangers in my car. Strangest I had was a girl who put on her special instructions, "Please tell me I'm pretty." I did. She smiled, said thanks, closed the door, and I never saw her again. Maybe one day I'll get lucky. We had to deliver beer to a bar, and the delivery was standard with no weird hiccups or delays. But the girl accepting the delivery, signing the invoice, was crying the whole time, stifling sneezes and trying to hold back tears. It was something else trying to get delivery information from a girl crying. I think she even managed to cry on the invoice. Sort of backward, I suppose. But I was a stripper for a little while in college. One time I was asked to show up dressed as a pizza guy. Got the wrong address. Some middle-aged women's wine and book party a floor below where I was supposed to be. They said they didn't order pizza. So I asked if they ordered this and started dancing and taking off my clothes. They freaked out and I was nearly arrested. Delivered 200 smoke detectors, according to papers. Never checked the goods, to another country. After driving for 20 hours trying to meet the eater, I arrived in a really shady looking warehouse. Called the number on custom papers. A really strong built guy came outside, unloaded my van and asked me how did it feel driving with a load worth 900,000 euros? Not delivering sheet after that. Delivering pizza. Guy answers the door in undies and a ducking gas mask. Literally Walter White. I ask him how his night is going and he just motions for the debit machine. He pays, gets his munch, and tips me $45. His pizza costed 20 something. I couldn't decide whether to laugh, be afraid, or profusely thank him for the tip. But that was a whack ducking delivery. TLDR, I delivered a $20 pizza to Walter White in a gas mask and he tipped me $50. Was delivering to a neighborhood that typically was kind of sketch, so I always expected no tip or a small one. I rolled up to this lady's house and she said something along the lines of, "I don't have the money and my husband will be here in 20 minutes with some cash." It was the last delivery of the night, so I wasn't worried about taking too long, and then she opened up her garage door. There was a pool table and fridge and TV in there, and she gave me a beer and we played pool until her husband came and gave me the money along with a $20 tip. One of the better nights working that job, lol. I knocked on the door and a couple voices told me to come inside. When I opened the door there were weird cameras and lights pointing at me and a man and a woman sitting on a couch across the room. They knew I was nervous and confused and they asked me to bring the pizza over to them. I walked the pizza over and the woman said, "You just walked through a ghost." They were ducking amateur ghost hunters looking for ghosts in a trailer. This is probably not answering correctly, but it was still weird. Delivered to this house and I noticed that they were in the garage, so I went over to the garage door. They actually had a whole glass blowing operation in their garage and showed me the whole in and outs of the operation. They gave me a brand new ball they had just blown and a good amount of weed for a tip. Not weird like uncomfortable, just different than the usual. People are always naked. The best is when they try to hide behind glass doors. Or they are desperately trying to cover their chest. But nothing else. Also, towels slip off and robes open often. The weirdest things I've had to deliver, that I know of, most stuff is in boxes, was a glass shower door. Please don't post these things, they are heavy as duck and it took ages to find a van that I could fit it in. Large bean bags. A book of stamps. Loose ping pong gonads and a watering can. I had one. Was the last delivery of the night at like 10:40 and the order was something like $23 and change. The guy, clearly drunk, gave a 20 and what seemed like a bunch of $1. When I got back to the car, I counted the money and it turns out he gave me $162. I ran back and had to explain to him what happened, and after several minutes of him trying to process what happened, he eventually went back inside and gave me $33 and thanked me. The other day we go at order at my store and the delivery said if you can freestyle my order you get a $10 tip. One of my drivers took the order over and the guy even played a beat for the freestyle. I'm not sure how it went, but my driver came back with a $15 tip.